Dave Walsh from the Let's Visit show. Today we're in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and behind me is the Great Marsh. And way out on the marsh is a very interesting structure, owned by this gentleman. What's your name, sir?
I'm Andy Dumaine.
And where do you live?
I live in Worcester, Massachusetts.
And how come you own something way out in the Ipswich Marsh?
My father rebuilt the property after he acquired it more than 50 years ago. So it's been a part of my childhood and all of my adulthood.
Well, that's cool. What is this building? What does it exactly do?
It is a duck hunting camp.
Oh, I didn't know that before. All right.
Yes, it was. There's been a building there for, since about 1915.
It's over 100 years old.
It is indeed, although the building's gone through many iterations. Mostly it was added on to, improved, repaired. My father completely rebuilt it back in 1973-74. But originally it was built approximately 1915, and it was known as the Burnham Barber blind.
Burnham is a popular name in this part of the North Shore.
I'm sure it is, and Mr. Burnham and his partner, Mr. Barber, owned it for at first, and they were written up. The blind was written up in a book by another well-known character in this area from many years ago named John Phillips. He owned a very well-known sporting camp on Wenham Lake.
Oh, okay. Is this the only blind out there? Or?
Well, when I first started coming out here with my family, there were probably 13 buildings roughly similar to mine.
Yeah.
But environmental laws changed over time, and you weren't allowed to build new ones. And as duck hunting became less popular, and storms became more popular, it was harder and harder to keep the buildings in good repair.
Out there, I imagine. Yeah.
And so now there's only 2 of those buildings left.
Okay.
The original 13.
Now,
at least in the immediate
Andy,
part.
I'm going to ask you something. You have a canoe back here.
I do.
I would love to be able for you to take me out there so I can show my viewers what it really is like. Can we do that?
We can do that. I'd be delighted. I love showing off the camp.
Okay. See you out there. All right, that looked good.
Good.
This canoe trip out to the duck hunting camp took us about a half hour. We started off in Payne's Creek, a small creek with steep walls on each side, but eventually reached some somewhat open water. Andy handled the canoe and I did the camera work. He did mention that this part of the trip reminded him of Bogart and Hepburn in the old movie African Queen. This shooting hut was begun by Mr. Burnham of Ipswich about 1915. It was ideal for shooting ducks, teal, and yellowlegs. I have lived in Ipswich since 1961 and have always wondered about this house out on the marsh. And now at last, I'm going to visit it.
During the duck season, I keep camp very, very neat. I sweep it out, I put the decoys away properly, I wind up all the cords, I wipe down all the counters, make the beds, but in the off season, there's always a project to be done, and I like to clean up once at the end of the off season. Stacked up on each other, and between the studs, there was fiberglass insulation and plywood sheathing. So whenever this flooded, the insulation would get wet, and the oyster would be sitting, looks like a wet sponge sitting on the sills.
All right, this stove heats this whole area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is that a wood burning stove?
It is. And yes, I paddle out all the wood myself.
I've seen you do that.
These are full queen size bunks with foam mattresses, and the worst flood we ever had didn't quite get the mattresses wet.
Good. So you can sleep, well, if you double up, you could sleep 8 people in here.
You could. I, generally speaking...
Don't like that.
Men don't like to sleep together,
no.
and couples don't like to sleep with other couples.
Right.
Well, at least not in my neck of the woods.
All right, let's see the other bunks.
Sure. Up top?
No, the other one over here.
Oh, sure. This was my father's bunk for 30 years when he used to come, and he this was his sanctum sanctorum. This is nobody would sleep here but him.
Wow.
Matter of fact, I did. I mean, I think it was 5 years after he gave me the building, and he had already moved, so he was never coming back. I just didn't feel comfortable, so I wouldn't. It took me 5 years to say, "Oh, to heck with it, you can sleep there now." My father and mother moved to Kentucky to live with my sister. 20 years ago, and that ended up as a stocking stuffer, I think.
Okay, go.
In this darkened area, I keep my blind materials. I pick them up I'm always tinkering and experimenting with different temporary blinds that I put up and take down at the beginning and end of each duck season in different places, within 300 yards of the building. So we have wire and plastic fencing. We have these bamboo stakes of various sizes. We have these landscape, I don't know, I guess they're just to make your landscape fences not so ugly, but they also make nice camouflaging.
Oh, yeah.
Although I bought a bunch of them, used them a couple of seasons, and they're not very sturdy, so when they wear out, I won't replace them. The cooking and the cooking inside and the lighting is propane gas, and out here is where I keep the propane tanks.
Good idea.
Nobody's hunted out of there for 15 years. It's now owned by the Essex County Greenbelt Association.
I don't know if I can get a shot of that or not.
But another gasoline-powered device that I try very hard to pretend is going to start whenever I want it to. I start it 3 or 4 times a year just to make sure.
Right.
So far, so good. I had one almost identical.
Well, now it's time to head back to the mainland. It has been an adventuresome afternoon, and I want to thank Andy for providing us all with this great experience.